We were hit by a hailstorm and it sounded like rocks hitting the car. Greg and I are exploring Eastern Oregon for Memorial Day weekend, and today is Friday. We drove east on Highway 20 to the little town of Riley, where we turned off on Silver Creek Road and drove 30 miles up here to the Dry Mountain Lookout. The road is rough in spots, but our Subaru made it. I think a regular car could probably make it if it went slowly. This lookout tower and the ground cabin living quarters were built in 1932. And they're not used anymore, and the Malheur National Forest has proposed to take all of this down. So that's why we're up here taking advantage of the opportunity to see this before it is removed. One bonus to our visit up here today is that there are wildflowers blooming up here, which is wonderful. On the last stretch of road up here, there's actually a whole bunch of lupin growing in the center of the road, and it will probably be blooming in the next few weeks or so. This is the view looking south down towards the little town of Riley and Highway 28. I don't know if my camera can pick it up, but I can hear bald eagles in the trees nearby. Greg is botanizing. He's loving all these wildflowers up here. The old outhouse is still standing, which is kind of amazing. Surprisingly, the stairs are not removed or blocked off on the tower, and so I've climbed up a little bit, but there's several more flights to go, and I don't know how stable this thing is. It is pretty old, so I am not going to go any further up. Greg is still out there botanizing. That is Bald Butte, where we plan to head next. Considering that the road to get up here is not gated, I'm very surprised that we have not found a whole bunch of trash and graffiti up here. I think I've found one water bottle, and that's it. It's very surprising because these lookouts are usually prime targets for vandalism and partying and just leaving the place a trashy mess. The back window of the cabin has been broken so you can see inside a bit. This is where the lookout would have lived while being staffed up here. This type of tower was too small up on top to live in, so they just spent the scouting hours up there, and then to sleep and cook and everything else, they had this cabin down here. The mosquitoes have found us, so it's time to go. Now we're going to head over to Bald Butte. We drove half a mile up Road 4117 and discovered this tree across the road, so we have to walk the last little bit. The lookout on Bald Butte was built in the 1930s, and it's had some work done since then, but it hasn't been used in a while, and it's been condemned by the Forest Service, and they plan to remove it. They've put a fence around the base to keep people out of here. However, someone has cut a hole in the fence so that they can climb the stairs. It doesn't look very safe, so I'm not going to do that. The windows are missing in the cabin, and there are pieces of the lookout on the hill below. So this thing is definitely in bad shape. Looks like we'll be getting some rain soon. We drove north, and it was a very pretty drive along Road 47. It was quite lovely. And then we headed up to Sugarloaf Mountain. We drove up here to the gate on Sugarloaf Mountain, and right as we arrived, we were hit by a hailstorm. And the hail was like the size of quarters, and it sounded like rocks hitting the car. And now we can hear the hail falling to the northeast. It sounds like the ocean, but it's just all that hail falling. It's crazy. So now we are going to walk up to the top of Sugarloaf Mountain, which should be about half a mile or so. There's a really nice meadow full of wildflowers on the road up to Sugarloaf. So we walked 6/10 of a mile up the road. It took us about 20 minutes to the lookout, and there's no views today because of the weather. The lookout on Sugarloaf Mountain was built in 1949, and I believe it is still staffed in the summer. We are not going up to the lookout because we are in the middle of a thunderstorm. So we found the geocache, we saw the lookout, and now we are going to head back to the car. We wanted to visit the West Myrtle Lookout, but it was pouring down rain and the road was already rough, and now it was muddy too. So we continued driving to our cabin at Unity Lake State Park.